Hi, welcome to my tidbits for the week. One of the things I'm working on now is a market value for a property. So what does that mean? What do I do? I think a lot of sellers just go on to Zillow or Redfin and think, oh, my home is worth X. And that could not be further from the truth. So what do I do as a realtor to come up with a value? I have access to MLS both on and off Cape, and I use both. And then from there, I run comps. And how do I do that? Well, I narrow down things like what has sold, what's currently active, what's pending, and what is currently sold, obviously. And then from there, I get a whole list of properties, and then I narrow it down even further by how many bedrooms and bathrooms, square footage. I might pick a certain area, depending on how many properties have sold in your area, and narrow it down even further. And I want to get a good, I would say probably like 8 or so comps, at least, good comps. And from there, I can narrow it down even further to say, okay, well, this one happens to be on your street. This one looks exactly like your home design. Or this one's on a busy street and you're in a neighborhood. Or this one has a pool and a garage and yours doesn't. And so I kind of narrow it down that way. And from there, I actually do old school spreadsheet, green paper, columns, the whole bit, because I like to see at a glance what are the differences in all these properties and how do they relate to each other. This one closed 3 or 4 months ago. This one closed last week. This one is, although it's in the same town, it may be closer to a beach. Maybe it's got a water view. That may impact the value, will impact the value quite a bit. Things like that. And I take all of those things into account. I take into account how many updates you've done. Do you have hardwood floors? Do you have new plumbing and light fixtures? Do you have a new bathroom? Is your kitchen done over? Do you have granite and quartz, or do you have Formica? Do you have wall-to-wall carpeting, or do you have hardwood floors? Do you have a brand new roof? There's a million things that come into play, and I try to take all of those into account when I'm doing evaluation. And because of that, it can take me a while to do. It could be up to a week. I like to get back to sellers quickly, so I can do a rough estimate, but for the most part, it does take a few days for me to get through all of that and come up with a decent number. And then I'll give you a range that I think your house should be priced between this, and this is why, and I'll send you all the comps that I did. I'll send you a report showing you why I selected values and where I got all those numbers. So that's how I come up with a comp, and or a market value, I should say. So if you have concerns or questions about that, I'm happy to discuss it. I mean, nothing is written in stone. If you feel that it's worth 20 grand more, I'm happy to talk about that. The market value is what it says on paper of historical properties in your area. It doesn't mean what's happening today, because I don't know what that house across the street has gone under agreement for. I can call the agent, but likely they're not going to tell me what their agreement was for, because it hasn't closed yet. So I'm really looking at historical data. And if you feel like it's worth more than that, if you've heard through the grapevine that one went 40 grand over, or all of these houses a block away have sold under asking, and now you want to do over asking, if you think it's worth, I shouldn't say asking, but if you think it's worth more than that, we can have a discussion about why you feel that way. And I can show you whether I will agree or disagree. It's your house, and you can price it at whatever you like. Whether it's going to sell right away, if you want to do a price that's, in my opinion, off the charts, we'll have a discussion. Maybe I'm not the right realtor for you. But if you want to try it a little higher, as long as we can agree that if nobody's interested and nobody's looking at it, and there are no showings and no one's coming to the open house, and I'm not getting any calls about it after all of my marketing and photos and everything else I've done to promote your home, then maybe we need to have a sit down and talk about that price. And then we can maybe do a price adjustment. So that's kind of where we are. It's, picking a realtor, it's not just like, I want you and that's it. I'm open to discussion and conversation and negotiation about everything about your house. And so it's good to have that open stream of communication and be able to change and adjust. So, I feel like I know what I'm doing and I'm doing my job well, but that doesn't mean that you don't have any input or you can't change it. And if you like the realtor and you feel very comfortable with them, one little thing shouldn't change your opinion. So, if I'm meeting with you and we get along great, and somebody else comes in and and says I can sell it for 10 grand more, is that something that you could negotiate with me about? Of course. So just to keep that in mind as you go forward. Have a great week, everybody. See you next time.